The Phantom Troupe are a group of notorious bandits who are mainly known for their robbery and power. They consist of some of the most powerful criminals in the world, and even the Zodiacs, who are some of the strongest hunters in the association, are wary of them. Their target for this video will be Isaac Netero, after they learned of his 2 expeditions to the Dark Continent and intend to rob him of the potential treasures he may have brought over. Netero in his old age is still regarded as the strongest hunter, and his life's mission was to find the ultimate adversary that he can fight to the death against. So by the end of this, we'll see how well the spiders truly fare against the world's strongest hunter, and if they can qualify as a worthy adversary. If you'd like to see more Hunter x Hunter content like this in future, a simple like and a subscribe to the channel would be greatly appreciated. As you all know, there's a big range in power within the Phantom Troupe, so to structure this properly, we'll be splitting the spiders into groups. The groups will be loosely based on their strength and the value of the feats they share, but the intention behind it is to give this subject the cohesion it requires. For the support tier, we have Pakunoda, Chrollo, Chrollo, and Shaunok. Paku and Chrollo are definitely the least impressive of the spiders, as they have Nen abilities less suited for combat and more suited in helping the troupe with their heists. Paku's only ranked at number 11 in arm wrestling amongst the spiders, and she doesn't have any significant combat feats to speak of. She even had her arm broken by York New Arc Killua, who hadn't even learned any advanced Nen, albeit she was caught off guard by the lights turning off. Chrollo isn't much better in the feats department, however he probably has a large pool of aura, given how he's easily able to conjure up 50 clones of the troupe's hideout in York New. He's even credited by for this feat, as this isn't something a regular conjurer could perform. Outside of that, he's literally featless, and he's also the physically weakest when it comes to arm wrestling in the troupe. The best thing you can say for Chrollo would be his confidence in taking on both Phaeton and Finks with the help from Machi to stop them from getting in Paku's way in York New. Chrollo and Shaunok are far more impressive in comparison to Paku and Chrollo, as they've shown off their abilities against the Chimera Ants. They've both fought and defeated one of Zazan's soldiers or Peon Ants with relative ease after using their Nen abilities. The only reason Chrollo took longer to beat her opponent is because she has a bad habit of toying with her prey. As a Zodiac assassin, she should be able to open the testing gates and has a perfect use of Zetsu fitting for her role. As for Shaunok, in base he's able to react to Pel's movements but is unable to pierce his tough shell. To get around that, Shell targeted the unprotected parts between his joints, however this was inefficient due to Pel already being manipulated by another ant. In the end, Shell needed to use autopilot, which greatly increases his aura and grows his power, which allowed him to easily break the hold Pel had him in and defeat the ant. In the mid tier, we have Shizuku, Franklin, and Machi, and outside of the last two, Shizuku outright has better feats against a stronger ant. Where Shao and Chrollo fought and defeated soldier ants, Shizuku fought and defeated Pike, who is one of Zazan's officers and might even be the strongest one. Even though Shizuku's Nen ability is mainly valuable for storing the troops' loot and clearing evidence, she's also able to use Blinky as a club as well. Shizuku was strong enough to pierce and cut into Pike's body and give him 29 bleeding lacerations, with Blinky draining his blood from his body. Despite getting the win, Shizuku still thought of herself and Pike as pretty stupid, as Pike could have just clogged the wounds with his webs but tried to use his arms instead. Franklin and Machi on the other hand are pretty limited in the feats department, but in terms of physical strength in arm wrestling, they rank pretty high up, with Machi at number 6 and Franklin at number 4. Franklin was strong enough to clash with Nobunaga and have a brief fight with him, but this wasn't much of a serious fight and neither of them used their Nen abilities. Outside of that, they just have a bunch of confidence statements and portrayal for their strength, such as Machi declaring to kill Hisoka a couple of times, both in Greed Island and in the Succession arc. Franklin has the same confidence in his strength, as he just waits by himself in the whale ship, inviting Hisoka to find him whenever he wants. Killua does compare Machi and Nobunaga's strength to Hisoka in York New to help Leorio and Gon understand how much stronger they are compared to them, but this isn't a credible scale when Killua has no clue how strong Hisoka really is and has only seen him when he's extremely suppressed against Gon. The purpose of Killua's comparison was just to highlight that Nobunaga and Machi were out of their league. Now for the high tier, we have Nobunaga, Finks and Bonolenov, and except for Nobunaga, the other two fought and easily defeated one of Zazan's officers. Battle Cantabile Jupiter expands and chases its target at least at the speed of sound, and it easily crushed the gun-toting ant. This left a large crater beneath the ant, and it even blew off a chunk of Zazan's hideout, which is a testament to his destructive power. By using Rippler Cyclotron, Finks was able to decimate the gorilla ant with 15 spins of his arm, and he said it would have taken half the spins to achieve the same result. Even though Nobunaga doesn't have many significant feats, he's tasked with protecting Shizuku, Shaonak and Pakanoda in the York Nuke arc, which suggests he's at least stronger than the Chimera Ant officers like Pike. He's also stated in the Hunter Guide to be one of the top fighters in the Phantom Troupe and is highlighted for his quick draw swordsmanship. Franklin would also scale to this as a bare minimum if you take his fight with Nobunaga seriously and see them as somewhat relative. Of all the spiders, Nobunaga is the only one whose Nen ability is still unknown, but we do know he's an enhancer. He's also a master with the sword, and coupled with his 4-meter N radius, he's able to cut down anyone that enters his perimeter with his quick draw techniques. In the next group we have Illumi, Uvagin and Phaeton, who are the heavy hitters of the spiders. Uvagin is stated multiple times to be the physically strongest of the Phantom Troupe and is ranked number 1 in terms of arm wrestling. He's able to catch bullets with his teeth and block bazookas with his bare hands. His Big Bang Impact is stated to have the power of a small missile and was strong enough to completely break Kurapika's arm. Even though Uvagin isn't the overall strongest and skilled Nen user of the troupe, in terms of strictly punching power, he most likely is the strongest, and even Chrollo commented on his overwhelming combat power. Chrollo is physically strong enough to withstand Nen enhanced punches from Zeno and Silva, and Silva is able to completely one-shot squadron leader Chitu, so Uvagin should have no problem decimating leader class ants with his missile-like attacks. Phaeton is also in that beyond squadron leader tier as he directly fought and defeated Zazan. Despite being rusty, Phaeton was able to keep up with base Zazan and started to slowly return to form as the fight went on. However, transformed Zazan caused a problem for Phaeton as her tough skin was strong enough to not only tank his Ko but also break his sword. Ultimately, Phaeton decimated Zazan by using his Nen ability Pain Packer to convert the pain he received into the Rising Sun, which scorched her to death. This ability is usually so powerful that the other spiders watching the fight had to run away so they don't end up being collateral damage. If Uvagin and Chrollo were also present for when the spiders tried to watch Phaeton's ability in the past, then it puts his ability in even higher regard. Illumi is one of the newest additions to the Phantom Troupe, and unlike the other heavy hitters, he doesn't really have any significant feats. However, Hisoka deems him strong enough that he's willing to pay him to target his life. He also deems Illumi stronger than some of the Zodiacs who were handpicked by Netero, and they are arguably stronger than Morel, who was able to comfortably defeat squadron leader Leo. Lastly, we have the magician Hisoka and the head spider Chrollo, who is stated in the Hunter Guide to be the strongest and most skilled of the troupe. I've covered these two in separate videos in great detail, but their skill speaks for itself. In York New, Chrollo faced off against both Silva and Zeno Zoldyck at the same time, whilst only trying to capture Zeno in order to steal his Nen ability. This is impressive as Zeno is deemed strong enough by Netero that he paid a fudge ton of money for his services to separate the Royal Guard from Meruem. Silva even admitted that to take out Chrollo, it would potentially sacrifice either his or Zeno's life to do so in the process, showing that Chrollo is comfortably on a different level to the Zoldyck duo. This is arguably supported in the Hunter Guide as well, as it's stated when Chrollo is fighting to kill, his combat ability is equal to Zeno and Silva, which can be interpreted as the two of them together. As for Hisoka, he directly fought Chrollo in a one-on-one, and despite suffering an overwhelming defeat, he was able to force Chrollo to use the most Nen abilities he's ever used against an opponent, which includes the Zoldyck duo. This is significant as Chrollo actually improved even more as a Nen user after York New by developing the double face bookmark, which allows him to use a stolen ability without the need to have Bandit's Secret open in one hand. So Hisoka had to fight a more serious, leveled up version of Chrollo than the one the Zoldycks fought, all while fighting at a disadvantage as the fight was staged to meet all of Chrollo's ideal conditions from the start. Despite all that, Hisoka was still able to physically keep up with Chrollo, endure his attacks, and deal some damage when he had the opportunity. Long story short, Hisoka is also comfortably above the Zoldyck duo and is arguably even stronger now due to the effects of post-mortem Nen. So as you can see, the Phantom Troupe has a wide range when it comes to the combat prowess of its members. Most of them range from either the tier of officer class to leader class Chimera Ants, with some of its strongest members completely eclipsing the tier of squadron leaders by multiple levels. However, the gap between squadron leaders and the Royal Guard, which is the next level up, can only be described as a chasm difference in terms of power. Even when Peter was just a newborn without a Nen ability, she was able to rip off Kite's arm with no difficulty. Although Kite was off guard at that moment, she still went on to take him out effortlessly, which was stated in the Hunter Guide to be nothing more than a mere game to the Royal Guard. Kite is recognized as a Nen master, at least in the anime, who was able to effortlessly destroy multiple officer ants, and he even scared Leo just off his presence alone. Peter became even stronger after developing Dr. Blythe, to the point that Ikago believed that even if Killua and Palm helped Gon, they would still stand no chance against her. Gon at this point is strong enough that his Janken can one-shot the likes of Morel, who is beyond the tier of squadron leader class ants. As for Killua, he is able to one-shot Nen enhanced officer class ants like Ramot in base with just his bare hands, and reaches a whole nother level when using Godspeed. Some of you might be wondering why the ranks and strengths of the Chimera Ants are relevant here, but they actually act as a perfect segue to the former chairman, Isaac Netero. Contrary to popular belief, Netero is still the strongest in the world even in his old age, despite his efforts to downplay himself. Not only do Nov and Morel both consider him to be the strongest in the association, it's also stated in the Hunter Guide with two separate statements that he's the strongest Nen user and at the top of the world of hunters. Even the fight against Meruem is portrayed as the strongest of man versus the strongest of creatures. Netero is pretty much a battle junkie who has dedicated his life to his martial arts, and his ultimate dream was to find the ultimate adversary. Despite being old and rusty, Netero wasn't interested in the slightest about Hisoka's advances for a fight, showing that the magician isn't a worthy opponent in his eyes. It's not until Netero met Pito from afar and sensed her overwhelming power that he was invigorated to start training again. Pito is stated in the opening of volume 21 to be the most formidable foe Gon and Killua have faced, meaning she's stronger than both Hisoka, Illumi, everyone from Greed Island, and most of the Phantom Troupe they faced against. Killua even uses Hisoka and Illumi's power as a way to emphasize how overwhelming Pito was in comparison, and didn't think Netero would be able to take her on. In order to return back to top form, Netero fought not only squadron leaders, but their entire units while only in base. Mind you, at this point, the ants have awakened Nen, so Netero was effortlessly taking out units similar to what the troop fought against 4 times over. It's not until the palace invasion that Netero is forced to use his Nen ability, the Guanyin Bodhisattva. Aside from the overwhelming power behind this ability, the standout trait is the speed of Netero's prayers. Netero is arguably the fastest in the series, at least in attack speed, and was able to completely blitz Pito. Even Meruem conceded to the speed of Netero's prayer, concluding that he transcended human limits through sheer force alone. Even though Meruem is one of the fastest in the series, Netero was able to land thousands of attacks before the king could land a single attack. The only reason Meruem was able to get through the Bodhisattva was by figuring out the tiniest amount of bias in Netero's move. The Phantom Troupe's greatest intellect is Chrollo, who is only listed as a 4 out of 5 in intelligence, whereas Poof, who's a lower intellect than Meruem, is at a 5 out of 5. So not only do the troop lack the physical ability Meruem had, but they're also not as smart as him, so they would have no way of bypassing Netero's defense. Despite having to use multiple Nen types for this ability, Netero's affinity lies in enhancement. In fact, he's the only one listed on Togashi's Nen exhibition chart to be listed as an ultimate in enhancement, meaning he's reached the apex of his ability. In base, he can effortlessly take out multiple squadron ant units, and with a regular swing with the Guardian, he could send Pitou flying for miles had she not stopped herself. So it goes without saying that he's an even stronger enhancer than Uvogin, who is the physically strongest spider who is praised for his missile-like Big Bang impact. Usually in these 1 vs group matchups, there's always the argument of teamwork that arises. In the case for the Phantom Troupe, there is a great deal of teamwork whenever they carry out their heists. For example, Shizuku's ability is of value to the troop so they can clean up any mess they make, or Kurotopie's ability to make clones of objects they rob. However, when it comes to combat, there aren't any examples of the group having much teamwork aside from a couple of parents and instances. For example, Uvogin and Nobunaga are known to be a great duo in combat, as Uvogin is even stronger when he has someone to protect. Or how Bonolenov stuck with Chrollo since his ability would be a bad matchup against Hisoka's bungee gum. As for how the troop's abilities would match up against Netero, there aren't many that would cause problems for the chairman. The abilities of Nobunaga, Finks, Uvogin and Shizuku are most effective in close quarters, and none of them are fast enough to reach Netero. Phaeton's Pain Packer in theory could pack a punch, but it'll probably be counterintuitive for him to rely on since he'll probably be damaging himself more than he'll be able to wear down Netero. Even though Bungee Gum is very versatile, I don't see how Hisoka would be effective outside of maybe causing some distractions for the other troop members, since he doesn't have any crazy offensive moves with his Nen ability and is more of a physical fighter. Bololenov's conjured abilities use the speed of sound, which is slower than Netero's abilities, and Franklin uses aura bullets that won't be able to reach the chairman either. The troop's best option would probably be to set up some sort of scenario that would allow either Illumi to land his manipulation needles or Shaunok to land his black voice, then have Chrollo capture Netero with the Fun Cloth. But given how much Netero's physicals gap the rest of them, I don't see how that would even be feasible. Since Netero is an ultimate enhancer, his Ten or Ken might be so tough that their needles and antenna wouldn't even be able to pierce through his aura, considering Shao couldn't even pierce Pell's shell. Even though certain strategies and matchups can allow one to be effective in Nen battle against greater aura, as we learned with the Royal Guard and Meruem, sometimes one's aura is just so great that there's nothing that can be done about it, and that applies to this matchup. You'd have to come up with some ultra specific battle simulation to get the spiders a win here in a way that probably wouldn't be realistic to the manga. Gon, Palm and Killua, who are all at least at the level of mid-tier troop members standing no chance against Pitou, is a small example that helps illustrate that point. So long story short, the Phantom Troupe would fail their mission and Netero would solo the group. Netero's base alone is too much for half of the spiders, and the other half have no answer for the overwhelming speed and power of the Guardian Bodhisattva. That's about all there is to say for this matchup, but I hope outside of the topic, this has helped broaden your view of the varying levels of strength in Hunter x Hunter and its general inverse scaling. Like the video and subscribe to the channel if you enjoyed this and hope to see more in future. I've been the one and only Zage, and until next time.